Hello, this is Monster Crafts, and today we're going to be looking at the Lego Bionicle figure Makuta Antroz made from pipe cleaners. First, we start off with the main skeleton structure that includes the chest piece, hips, and the spine. So that's roughly the placement they're going to go, with the head on top of the spine. Next, we measure out the length of the legs, which will be going right there at the bottom of the hip. And here are the arms. And that's what the full skeleton will look like, minus the wings. Next, we reinforce both the arms and the legs to change them from a single strand of wire to 2 sets of wire. This is showing how the spine will be attached to the upper chest piece. It will be attached at 2 points, at the bottom and at the top, to prevent the spine from moving around and to keep it in place. Next, we measure out what is probably the legs. I can't really tell, these all look the same to me. The reason we curve in the end of the wire is to give the pipe cleaner a point where it can't just slide off of the wire. So if it was without the curve, you could tug on the other side and the pipe cleaner could unravel and come right off. But with this, it gives it a permanent stopping point. It also is much less pokey. Next is the formation of the joints. So these go in both the arms and the legs, and anywhere where we want to restrict movement along the length of the wire. My next video will be going to more in depth about how the joints work, but in short, what it does is it increases the resistance at selected points. For instance, you would have what would be the calf muscles and the shin muscles along a leg. So you create a circle of wire at these 2 points, and that's additional wire. And when you apply pressure to the leg, it will want to bend at the points where there's less resistance, which will be in between the 2 circles of wire. And this forms what are essentially knees, ankles, and spaces for hips. Here we are measuring out the length of the foot. So the way I make these feet is I create these digits coming from the base of the ankle, which is the end of the wire that forms the leg, and then I build the digits out, and then you see here we web together the digits to form the base of the foot. The same process was used when making the hands. I use gray as the color for the nails in both the feet and the hands. I used to have an issue with nails falling off the feet and hands of crafts, but I like this method where you take the end of the nail, that pipe cleaner, so the gray here, and you put it through a little opening in the foot, and that keeps it from coming out, instead of it just being wrapped around the end of the digit. And then we translate from the gray nail to the red color of the foot. And that's borrowed from the original toy that had red feet. So I try to keep a lot of the same color scheme. Now we're on to the whole reason why I decided to make this craft specifically, is to make these wings. So similar method as in the arms and the legs, where we have a strand of wire, one strand that goes through the back, attaches to the back. Right here, it will have 3 points of contact. So the spine wire and then the 2 sides of the back of the chest. Same deal here, we're making joints in the wings, so they bend at certain points. We'll see more of this later in the video, but to buff out the joints, I like to use foam and then wrap pipe cleaner around the foam. I've seen people use other things like tissue paper or toilet paper, but I like using foam. Moving joints here. So we're bending at a certain point right there, what would be an elbow. This wire will serve as the fingers for the wing. This will be the max wingspan I'm planning for it to have. This is a cosmetic adornment I got from the original toy with the red highlights at the top of the wing. For the wings themselves, I'm using this fabric that's about 20% elastic. I thought this was pretty cool because it has a little bit of give to the wing. So if you have a shape, then there's a little bit of stretch and you're not gonna put a lot of pressure on the stitches. It also is semi-translucent, which I thought was a nice touch. I started with a full size of what I roughly wanted the wings to be, and then I cut that up into smaller pieces. If we pretend the fabric is a membrane, then it's in between the fingers, instead of in front or behind. There's no wire in this pipe cleaner. I just put it there for its looks. This is what the full wings look like. I find the wingspan to be pretty agreeable because it really expands the profile of the figure. See, it's like a sweater. I was really on the fence about the armor bits, whether I wanted to make my own or use the originals, but I decided the originals would be too small and pretty out of place when everything else was made out of pipe cleaner. So I decided to try making them. I really had no idea what I was doing here. I just tried to go for the general shape with the crest at the bottom of the armor piece and then kind of a flat profile against the leg. I was originally going to use the mask and the head from the toy and just put it onto the figure, but just like the little armor pieces, I thought that was pretty out of place. So I designed the head to mimic a bit of the mask. I wanted to include some part of the original toy, and I've seen redesigns of this figure that put the weapon in the hand. So I decided to put it on the forearm, and I think it looks pretty cool. They are detachable. For the central ball, I decided to keep it the same color, which is orange, and then make a half circle and attach that to the center of the chest. So this right here turned out to be completely wrong, and I had to cut this whole thing in half. For the last piece, it was the rib cage that opens up in the original toy. Well, I wasn't having that. So with the orange ball permanently attached to the chest, I decided to make a piece of wire going over the middle, wrapping it with gray, and having a set of 3 pipe cleaners on each side form the rib cage. I think it really came together once the rib cage was complete, and I was really happy with how the craft turned out. And that's the video. Thank you for watching, and here are some pictures of the completed craft.